The gunshot that killed Eleanor's father echoed through the canyon just as the morning sun crested over the New Mexico territory. And in that single moment, everything she had ever known about safety and home shattered like glass beneath a boot heel. Eleanor Whitmore stood in the doorway of their small ranch house, her 22 years feeling suddenly ancient as she watched the dust settle where her father's body had fallen. The outlaws who had ridden onto their property demanding money they did not have were already disappearing into the scrubland, their laughter carrying back on the wind like the cries of vultures. Her mother had died 3 years prior from fever, and now Eleanor was truly alone in this unforgiving land. The year was 1878, and the New Mexico territory was still wild enough that justice often rode too slow to catch up with violence. She buried her father herself, her hands blistering on the shovel handle as she dug into the hard earth behind the house. The few neighbors they had were scattered across miles of desert and grassland too far to call upon for help that would arrive too late anyway. As she patted down the last of the soil over Samuel Whitmore's grave, Eleanor made herself a promise. She would not let this land take her too. She would not give up the ranch her parents had built from nothing, even if she had to learn to shoot, rope, and brand cattle all by herself. The problem was that Eleanor knew almost nothing about running a ranch. Her father had always handled the livestock, the finances, the dealings with buyers from Santa Fe. She could cook, sew, tend a garden, and keep a house, but the 100 head of cattle that grazed on their land might as well have been wild mustangs for all she knew about managing them. She had 3 months, maybe 4, before she would need to drive them to market or lose everything to debt. That first week alone, Eleanor learned the true meaning of exhaustion. She woke before dawn and collapsed after dark, every muscle screaming. She tried to do everything her father had done, but the cattle scattered when she approached. The fence line she attempted to mend fell apart within hours, and she nearly lost a finger trying to shoe her father's horse, a temperamental gelding named Ulysses. By the 8th day, she sat on the porch steps and allowed herself exactly 5 minutes to cry. Then she wiped her face, stood up, and walked into town. Salvation, New Mexico was hardly more than a wide spot in the road with delusions of grandeur. It boasted a general store, a saloon, a livery stable, a small church, and about 24 buildings in various states of construction or decay. Eleanor tied Ulysses outside the general store and went inside, her pride already stinging from what she was about to do. "I need to hire a hand," she told Walter Morrison, the store owner, a portly man with mutton chops that seemed to have a life of their own. "Someone who knows cattle and horses. I can pay a fair wage." Walter looked at her with something between pity and skepticism. "Miss Eleanor, I heard about your father. Terrible business. But I have got to be honest with you. Most of the able men around here already have work, and those that do not, well, they are not the type you would want on your property alone." "I do not have much choice," Eleanor said, lifting her chin. "I cannot run the ranch by myself, and I will not sell it." Walter scratched his jaw. "There is a fellow who came through about a week back. Been staying at the livery, doing odd jobs for his keep. Name is Cole Brennan. He's quiet. Keeps to himself. Jim at the livery says he knows his way around horses. Might be worth talking to him." Eleanor felt a flutter of hope. "Is he honest?" "Jim seems to think so. Says Cole fixed a problem with his mare that no one else could sort out. Has not caused any trouble. Does not drink much. Does not gamble. That is about all I can tell you." It was not much of a recommendation, but it was more than Eleanor had walked in with. She thanked Walter and made her way down the dusty street to the livery. The building was weathered wood that smelled powerfully of horses, hay, and manure. She found Jim Hastings mucking out a stall, and when she explained her purpose, he straightened up and grinned. "Cole? Yeah, he is out back with the roan. Been working with her all morning. She was so spooked, she would not let anyone touch her right side, but Cole has a way with animals. You will see." Eleanor followed Jim through the stable and out into the corral behind it. What she saw made her stop in her tracks. A man stood in the center of the pen with a copper-colored horse speaking to it in tones too low for Eleanor to make out the words. He was tall and lean, built like someone who had spent his entire life working hard for every meal. He wore a dusty black hat, a faded blue shirt with the sleeves rolled up to reveal tanned forearms, and worn denim pants tucked into scuffed boots. But it was not his appearance that caught her attention. It was the way the horse responded to him. The roan, which Jim had said was nearly feral with fear, stood calm and still as the man ran his hands along her flank. He moved slowly, deliberately, never rushing, never forcing. When his fingers found a spot that made the horse flinch, he paused, spoke quietly, and waited until she settled before continuing. There was a patience in his movements that Eleanor found mesmerizing, a gentleness that seemed at odds with the harsh landscape around them. "Cole," Jim called out, "got someone here who wants to talk to you." The man looked up, and Eleanor got her first clear view of his face. He was perhaps 26 or 27, with dark hair that needed cutting and eyes the color of creek water, somewhere between green and brown depending on the light. His face was weathered but not hard, and when he met her gaze, Eleanor felt an unexpected jolt run through her, something she could not quite name. Cole gave the horse a final pat and walked over to the fence, moving with an easy grace that suggested he was completely comfortable in his own skin. "Ma'am," he said, touching the brim of his hat. His voice was deep and quiet, with an accent she could not place. Not Texas, not California. Somewhere else. "Mr. Brennan," Eleanor began, then hesitated. Now that she was face to face with him, she felt suddenly uncertain. What did she really know about this man? What if Walter and Jim were wrong about his character? But then she thought of the cattle wandering unsupervised, of the fences that needed mending, of the 100 tasks she could not manage alone. She thought of her father's grave and her mother's memory, and she forced herself to continue. "My name is Eleanor Whitmore. I own a ranch about 8 miles north of here. My father was killed last week, and I need help running the place. Mr. Morrison said you might be looking for work." Something flickered in Cole's eyes. Sympathy, maybe. "I am sorry for your loss, Henry," he said, and it sounded genuine. "What kind of help are you looking for?" "Everything," Eleanor admitted. "I need someone who knows cattle, horses, mending fence, all of it. I can offer room and board in the bunkhouse and $30 a month. It is hard work, and I cannot promise it will be exciting, but the land is good and the herd is healthy." Cole was quiet for a moment, studying her with those changeable eyes. Eleanor forced herself not to squirm under his gaze. She had the strange feeling he was seeing more than she wanted to show, reading things in her face she thought she had hidden. "You planning to run this ranch yourself?" he asked finally. "I am." "You know how?" Eleanor lifted her chin. "I am learning." The corner of Cole's mouth twitched, almost a smile. That is honest, at least. Most people would have lied and said they knew exactly what they were doing. "I do not have time for lies, Mr. Brennan. I have about 3 months to get my cattle to market, or I will lose everything. I need help. And I need someone I can trust not to rob me blind or worse. Jim and Walter seem to think you are decent. I am willing to take a chance if you are." Cole glanced back at the roan, then at Jim, then back to Eleanor. "I will need to settle up with Jim here. Make sure he does not need me for anything else. But I can ride out to your place tomorrow morning, take a look at what needs doing. If it seems like a good fit, I will stay. If not, no hard feelings." It was not quite the commitment Eleanor had hoped for, but it was more than she had expected. "That is fair," she said. "The ranch is called the Whitmore place. Anyone in town can give you directions. I will find it," Cole said. Eleanor nodded, suddenly feeling awkward. "Tomorrow, then. Early morning if you can manage it." "I am an early riser, Miss Whitmore." She turned to go, then paused and looked back. "Thank you, Mr. Brennan, for considering it." "Cole," he said. "Just Cole." "Eleanor," she replied. "Just Eleanor." This time he did smile, a small thing that transformed his face from handsome to something that made Eleanor's breath catch in her throat. She nodded quickly and hurried back through the stable, her cheeks unaccountably warm. That night, Alone in the ranch house that felt too big and too quiet, Eleanor lay awake and wondered what she had just set in motion. She would be alone on the property with a man she did not know, a stranger who could be anyone, could want anything. But then she remembered the way he had touched that frightened horse, the patience and care in his movements, and something in her chest eased. She would have to trust her instincts. She did not have any other choice. Cole Brennan arrived at the Whitmore ranch just as the sun was breaking over the eastern hills, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Eleanor, who had been awake since before dawn, watched from the porch as he rode up on a sturdy bay horse. He had a bedroll and saddlebags tied behind his saddle, and he sat his horse like a man who had spent most of his life in the saddle. "Morning," he called as he dismounted. "Good morning," Eleanor replied, descending the porch steps. She had dressed in her most practical clothes, a simple cotton dress in dark blue with an apron over it, her hair braided and pinned up. She felt his eyes on her but could not read his expression. "Let me show you around," she said. "The barn is over there and the bunkhouse is behind it. It is not much, but it has a bed, a stove, and a table. The well is between here and there. The cattle range over about 400 acres, mostly to the west and south where the grass is better." Cole nodded, looking around with an assessing gaze. Eleanor tried to see the place through his eyes. The house was small but well built, with a stone foundation and a good roof. The barn needed some boards replaced, and the corral fence was listing to one side. The whole place had an air of recent neglect, the inevitable result of her father's death and her own inexperience. "How many head did you say?" Cole asked. "About 100. My father kept good records. I can show you the books." "I will want to see them, but first let me take a look at the stock." They walked out toward the pasture where most of the cattle were grazing. Eleanor had been right that they were healthy. They were mixed breed, sturdy animals suited to the harsh New Mexico climate. Cole watched them for a long time, his eyes moving from one animal to another, noting things Eleanor could not begin to guess at. "They look good," he said finally. "Well fed, no signs of disease. Your father knew what he was doing." "He did," Eleanor said softly. Cole glanced at her, and she saw that flicker of sympathy again. "What happened?" he asked, "if you do not mind my asking." Eleanor swallowed hard. "Outlaws. They wanted money. We did not have any. They shot him and rode off." "You see their faces?" "Yes." "You report it to the sheriff?" "We do not have a sheriff in Salvation. The nearest law is in Santa Fe, and by the time I could have gotten word there, the men would have been long gone. Besides, what would it matter? My father would still be dead." Cole's jaw tightened. "It would matter," he said quietly. "But I understand why you did not go. For what it is worth, I am sorry. It is not right what happened." Eleanor nodded, not trusting herself to speak. They walked back toward the barn in silence. Cole inspected the building, the corral, the bunkhouse. He asked questions about water sources, grazing rotation, when her father had last sold cattle, and for how much. Eleanor answered as best she could, pulling out her father's ledger to show him the records. Finally, as the sun climbed toward midday, Cole straightened up from the ledger and looked at her. "I will take the job," he said, "but I want to be clear about something. I am not looking for trouble, and I am not looking to take advantage. I will work hard, I will do right by you and your stock, and I will expect fair pay and fair treatment in return. If something is not working, either one of us can call it quits with a week's notice. Does that sound reasonable?" "It does," Eleanor said, relief washing through her. "Thank you, Cole. You do not know what this means to me." "I think I have got a pretty good idea," he said. "Now, if you will show me where you keep the tools, I will get started on that corral fence before one of your cows decides to wander off." Eleanor showed him the small tools shed near the barn, and then feeling suddenly at loose ends, she retreated to the house to start preparing the midday meal. She made beans with salt pork, cornbread, and coffee strong enough to strip paint. When she rang the bell she had hung outside the kitchen door, Cole appeared within minutes, washing up at the pump before coming inside. He ate with the single-minded focus of a man who was truly hungry, but he was not sloppy about it. He minded his manners, thanked her for the food, and offered to help clean up. Eleanor waved him off. "You have got plenty of work to do outside. I can manage the house." Over the following days, a routine established itself. Cole worked from dawn until dusk, repairing fences, checking the herd, fixing everything that had fallen into disrepair during the chaotic week after her father's death. Eleanor cooked, cleaned, tended her garden, and tried to learn as much as she could by watching Cole work and asking questions. He was patient with her ignorance, explaining things clearly and never making her feel foolish for not knowing. She learned that he had grown up on a ranch in Montana, that he had left home at 18 after his father died, and that he had been drifting ever since, working cattle drives, breaking horses, doing whatever work he could find. He did not talk much about his past beyond the bare facts, and Eleanor did not press him. She had secrets of her own, griefs she was not ready to share, and she respected his privacy. What surprised her was how comfortable she felt around him. Despite being a stranger, despite being alone with her in the middle of nowhere, Cole never made her feel unsafe or uneasy. He was respectful, keeping his distance, never overstepping. But there was a warmth in his eyes when he looked at her, a gentleness in his voice when he spoke to her, that made Eleanor's heart do strange things in her chest. 2 weeks after Cole arrived, Eleanor was weeding her garden when she heard him call her name. She looked up to find him standing at the edge of the vegetable patch, his hat in his hands. "I need to ride into town for some supply," he said. "Wire for the fence, couple other things. I thought you might want to come along, pick up anything you need." Eleanor sat back on her heels, brushing dirt from her hands. "I should probably stay here. There is a lot to do." "There is always a lot to do," Cole said. "When is the last time you left this ranch?" Eleanor thought about it. "The day I hired you." "That was 2 weeks ago." "I know." Cole shook his head. "Eleanor, you cannot work every hour of every day. You will wear yourself out. Come to town with me. Get out of the sun for a bit. Talk to people who are not me." "I like talking to you," Eleanor said before she could stop herself. Then she felt her cheeks heat. "I mean, you are easy to talk to." Cole's expression softened. "I like talking to you too, but you still need a break. Come on. We will make it a quick trip." Eleanor found herself agreeing, though she could not have said why. She changed into a cleaner dress, pinned up her hair more carefully, and met Cole at the barn where he had hitched the wagon. He helped her up onto the seat, his hand warm and strong around hers, and then they were rolling down the dusty road toward Salvation. The journey took about an hour, and they talked the whole way. Cole told her stories about the places he had been, the people he had met, the strange and wonderful things he had seen. Eleanor found herself laughing more than she had in months, the weight of grief and worry lifting for a brief time. When she told Cole about her childhood, about her parents, and the early days of the ranch, he listened with genuine interest, asking questions that showed he was really paying attention. They reached Salvation just before noon. Cole drove the wagon to the general store and helped Eleanor down. As they entered the store, she noticed the way people looked at them, the curious glances and whispered conversations. She knew what they were thinking. Eleanor Whitmore, alone with a hired hand, no family to chaperone or protect her reputation. In a different time, in a different place, it might have bothered her. But here, now she found she did not care what the gossips thought. Cole was helping her save her ranch. That was all that mattered. While Cole spoke with Walter Morrison about wire and nails, Eleanor wandered through the store, picking up flour, sugar, coffee. She was examining a bolt of calico fabric when she heard a familiar voice behind her. "Eleanor Whitmore, I've been meaning to come see you." Eleanor turned to find Martha Henderson, one of the few women her own age in Salvation. Martha was the school teacher, a plain but kind woman with a practical air about her. "Hello, Martha," Eleanor said. "How are you?" "I am well, but I have been worried about you. I heard about your father. I'm so sorry. And then I heard you hired a stranger to help with the ranch. Are you certain that is wise?" Eleanor bristled at the concern in Martha's voice, even though she knew it came from a good place. "Cole is a hard worker and a decent man. I am perfectly safe." Martha glanced over at Cole, who was loading supplies onto the counter. "He certainly seems capable. I am just concerned about your reputation, Eleanor. A young woman alone with a man, no family around. People will talk." "Let them talk," Eleanor said more sharply than she intended. "I am trying to survive, Martha. I do not have the luxury of worrying about gossip." Martha's eyes widened, and Eleanor immediately felt guilty. "I am sorry," she said. "I did not mean to snap at you. It has been a difficult few weeks." "Of course it has," Martha said, reaching out to touch Eleanor's arm. "I understand. And if you ever need anything at all, you know where to find me." "Thank you," Eleanor said, meaning it. They parted ways, and Eleanor made her purchases and joined Cole at the wagon. As they drove out of town, she found herself brooding over Martha's words. She had not thought much about how her situation might look to others, but now that it had been pointed out, she could not ignore it. What if Martha was right? What if people started to think poorly of her? "You are quiet," Cole observed. "Something wrong?" Eleanor hesitated, then decided to be honest. "Martha Henderson said people might talk about me hiring you, about us being alone on the ranch together." Cole's hands tightened on the reins. "I see." "It does not bother me," Eleanor said quickly. "I mean, I do not care what people think. You have been nothing but respectful. It is just that I never thought about how it might look." Cole was silent for a long moment. Then he said, "I can leave if it is going to cause you trouble. I do not want to hurt your reputation." "No." The word came out more forcefully than Eleanor intended. "No, I do not want you to leave. I need your help. And besides, She trailed off, not sure how to finish that sentence. "You what?" Cole asked gently. Eleanor took a breath. "I enjoy having you around. The ranch does not feel so lonely anymore." Cole looked at her, and the expression in his eyes made Eleanor's breath catch. It was warm and tender and something else, something that sent a thrill through her entire body. "I enjoy being around," he said quietly, "more than I have enjoyed anything in a long time." They looked at each other for a heartbeat, 2 heartbeats, and then Cole turned his attention back to the road. But something had shifted between them. Some invisible line had been crossed. Eleanor felt it in the air, in the silence that was suddenly charged with meaning. When they arrived back at the ranch, Cole unloaded the supplies while Eleanor went to start supper. But her mind was not on cooking. It was on the way Cole had looked at her, the warmth in his voice when he said he enjoyed being around. She realized with a start that she had feelings for him. Real feelings. More than just gratitude or companionship. She was drawn to him in a way she had never been drawn to anyone before. The realization should have frightened her, but instead it filled her with a strange kind of hope. After so much loss, after so much hardship, maybe there was something good waiting for her after all. That evening, after they had eaten and the dishes were washed, Eleanor stepped out onto the porch to watch the sunset. The sky was ablaze with color, oranges and reds and purples blending together like paint on a canvas. She heard footsteps behind her and knew without turning that it was Cole. "Beautiful, is it not?" she said. "It is," Cole agreed. But when Eleanor glanced at him, she found he was not looking at the sunset. He was looking at her. Her breath caught. "Cole." "I have been thinking," he said, his voice low, "about what you said earlier, about the ranch not feeling so lonely anymore." "Yes?" "It is the same for me. I have been drifting for years, never staying anywhere long, never letting myself get attached. But being here, working this land, being around you, it feels different. It feels like something I could stay for." Eleanor's heart was pounding so hard she was sure he could hear it. "What are you saying?" Cole took a step closer, close enough that she could feel the heat of him, smell the scent of horses and hay and honest sweat. "I am saying that I have got feelings for you, Eleanor. I have tried to fight them because I am your hired hand, and you have got enough to worry about without me making things complicated, but I cannot seem to help it. When I am around you, everything feels right in a way it never has before. Eleanor could not breathe, could not think. All she could do was stare up at him, at the honesty and vulnerability in his face. "I have feelings for you too," she whispered. "I was afraid to say anything because I thought maybe you were just being kind, just doing your job." Cole reached up slowly, giving her time to pull away, and cupped her cheek with his hand. His palm was rough with calluses, but his touch was gentle. "This is not about the job," he said. "This is about you, about the way you make me feel, about how I want to wake up every morning and see your face, about how I want to build something with you if you will have me." "I will have you," Eleanor breathed. "I want that too." Cole smiled, and then he leaned down and kissed her. It was soft and sweet and tentative, a question more than a demand. Eleanor kissed him back, her hands coming up to grip his shirt, pulling him closer. The kiss deepened, became more urgent, and Eleanor felt like she was falling and flying all at the same time. When they finally broke apart, both of them were breathing hard. Cole rested his forehead against hers, his hands on her waist, holding her steady. "We should probably talk about this," he said. "Figure out what it means, where we go from here." "I know," Eleanor said, "but can we just have this moment first? Just be happy without worrying about all the complications?" Cole chuckled. "Yeah, we can do that." They stood together on the porch, wrapped in each other's arms, and watched the sun sink below the horizon. Eleanor felt something she had not felt since before her father died. She felt hope. She felt like maybe, just maybe, everything was going to be all right. Over the next few weeks, Eleanor and Cole navigated the strange new territory of their relationship. They were careful around each other during the day, maintaining propriety, but in the evenings after the work was done, they would sit together on the porch or walk through the pastures, talking and laughing and stealing kisses when the mood struck. Eleanor felt like she was discovering a whole new side of herself, a side that was lighter and freer than she had known existed. Cole was a revelation. He was funny and thoughtful, with a dry wit that caught her off guard and made her laugh until her sides ached. He was also surprisingly romantic, bringing her wildflowers from the meadow, leaving little notes for her to find, sitting with her under the stars and pointing out constellations. Eleanor had never been courted before, had never had anyone pay attention to her the way Cole did, and it was intoxicating. But they were also realistic. They talked about the future, about what it would mean for Cole to stay permanently, about how they would handle the ranch together. Cole made it clear that he did not want to take over or push Eleanor aside. He wanted to be her partner in every sense of the word, working beside her, making decisions together, building a life together. "I do not want you to lose your independence," he told her one night as they sat on the porch swing her father had built years ago. "This is your ranch, your dream. I just want to help make it a reality." "It is not just my dream anymore," Eleanor said, leaning into his shoulder. "It is ours." Cole pressed a kiss to the top of her head. "Ours. I like the sound of that." As summer deepened into fall, they prepared for the cattle drive to Santa Fe. It was a 3-day journey, and Eleanor was both excited and nervous. She had never been on a drive before, had never been away from the ranch for more than a day, but Cole assured her they could manage it together. They hired 2 additional hands from Salvation, young men named Tom and Billy who were eager for work and seemed trustworthy enough. With the 4 of them working together, they herded the cattle out onto the trail on a crisp September morning. Eleanor rode beside Cole, her heart pounding with excitement and fear. This was it. Everything depended on getting the herd to market and getting a good price. The first day of the drive was exhausting. The cattle were restless, unused to being pushed together in such a tight group. Eleanor spent most of the day chasing down strays and trying not to get trampled. By the time they made camp that first night, she was so sore she could barely move. Cole must have noticed because he appeared at her side with a tin cup of coffee and a gentle smile. "You did good today," he said. "Real good." "I feel like I've been run over by a herd of buffalo," Eleanor groaned, accepting the coffee gratefully. "It gets easier," Cole promised. "Your body adjusts." They sat together by the fire, Tom and Billy talking quietly on the other side of the flames. Eleanor rested her head on Cole's shoulder, too tired to care if the other men saw. Cole wrapped an arm around her, and she felt safe and warm despite the chill in the desert air. "Thank you for doing this with me," she murmured. "Where else would I be?" Cole replied. The second day was easier, just as Cole had promised. The cattle settled into the rhythm of the drive, and Eleanor's muscles began to remember how to work without screaming in protest. They made good time, covering miles of scrubland and desert. That night they camped near a small creek, and Eleanor took the opportunity to wash the dust from her face and hair. When she returned to the camp, Cole had set up her bedroll a little apart from the others, giving her some privacy. He also had a plate of beans and bacon waiting for her along with more of that strong coffee. "You're going to spoil me," Eleanor said, sitting down beside him. "You deserve to be spoiled," Cole said simply. On the third day, they reached Santa Fe. The city was bustling, full of people and noise and activity. Eleanor found it overwhelming after the quiet of the ranch, but Cole navigated it all with ease, leading them to the stockyards where buyers gathered. The sale went better than Eleanor had dared to hope. The buyer, a weathered man named Henderson, was impressed with the quality of the stock and offered a fair price. Eleanor negotiated for a bit more, using everything her father had taught her about dealing with buyers, and walked away with enough money to pay off the ranch's debts and have a tidy sum left over. She was so relieved she could have cried. Instead, she turned to Cole, who was grinning at her with obvious pride. "You did it," he said. "You saved the ranch." "We did it," Eleanor corrected. "I could not have done this without you." Cole's grin softened into something warmer. "Partners," he said. "Partners," Eleanor agreed. They paid Tom and Billy, sent them on their way with thanks, and found a respectable boarding house where they could stay the night before heading back to the ranch. Eleanor took the opportunity to buy a few things she had been needing: fabric for new clothes, some books, a few small luxuries she had not been able to afford before. That evening, as they walked through the plaza in the center of town, Cole suddenly stopped and pointed. "Look at that," he said. Eleanor followed his gaze and saw a small flower seller, an old woman with a cart full of blooms. But beyond the cart was a field, wild and overgrown, filled with flowers of every color, yellows and purples, reds and whites, all mixed together in a riot of color and life. "I do not know much about flowers," Cole said slowly, "but I know that field looks like you belong in it." Eleanor's breath caught. She looked at Cole, at the sincerity in his face, and felt her heart swell. "What do you mean?" Cole took her hand, lacing his fingers through hers. "I mean, you are like those flowers, beautiful and strong and full of life, even in hard soil. You have bloomed where you are planted, Eleanor, and you have made something beautiful out of all the pain and hardship. When I look at you, I see color and hope and everything good in this world, and I think you deserve to be surrounded by beauty, the way those flowers are surrounded by each other." Tears pricked at Eleanor's eyes. No one had ever said anything like that to her before. No one had ever seen her that way. "Cole, I love you," Cole said, the words simple and honest. "I know it has not been that long, and maybe it is too soon to say it, but I do. I love you, Eleanor Whitmore, and I want to spend the rest of my life making sure you know it." Eleanor's tears spilled over. "I love you too," she whispered. "So much." Cole pulled her into his arms right there in the plaza with people walking past and the sun setting behind the mountains. He held her like she was precious, like she was the most important thing in the world. And in that moment, Eleanor knew that everything she had been through, all the pain and loss and struggle, had led her to this, to him, to love. "Marry me," Cole said, pulling back to look into her eyes. "I do not have a ring yet, and I know I'm not much. Just a drifter with calloused hands and a horse. But I love you, and I will spend every day of my life making you happy if you will let me." Eleanor laughed through her tears. "You are not just anything, Cole Brennan. You are everything, and yes, I will marry you." Cole let out a whoop of joy that made several passers-by turn and stare. Then he lifted Eleanor off her feet and spun her around, both of them laughing like children. When he set her down, he kissed her, deep and thorough and full of promise. They were married a week later in the small church in Salvation. Martha Henderson stood up with Eleanor, and Jim Hastings from the livery stood up with Cole. It was a simple ceremony with only a handful of people in attendance, but it was perfect. Eleanor wore a new dress she had made from the fabric she bought in Santa Fe, a soft blue that Cole said matched the sky. Cole wore his best shirt and a new vest, and he had even gotten a haircut for the occasion. When the preacher pronounced them man and wife, Cole kissed Eleanor with such tenderness that she felt it all the way to her toes. And when they walked out of the church together, hand in hand, Eleanor felt like she was walking into a whole new life. They returned to the ranch as husband and wife, and Cole officially moved his things from the bunkhouse into the main house. It felt strange at first, sharing space with someone after being alone for so long, but it was also wonderful. Eleanor loved waking up to find Cole beside her, loved the way he would wrap his arms around her from behind while she cooked, loved the sound of his laughter filling the rooms that had been too quiet for too long. They fell into a new rhythm, working the ranch together as true partners. Cole taught Eleanor everything he knew about cattle and horses, and she taught him about the garden and the chickens and the thousand small things that kept a household running. They made decisions together, planned for the future together, and slowly but surely, the ranch began to thrive. That winter was hard, with snow and bitter cold that tested their endurance, but they had each other, and that made all the difference. They spent long evenings by the fire, talking and reading and making plans for the spring. Cole was working on expanding the herd, and Eleanor wanted to start breeding horses. They dreamed big, and those dreams kept them warm even when the wind howled outside. One night in January, as they lay in bed with the quilts piled high against the cold, Eleanor told Cole something she had been waiting to share. "I think I am with child," she said softly. Cole went very still beside her. Then he sat up, lighting the lamp on the bedside table so he could see her face. "Are you certain?" "As certain as I can be without a doctor. I've missed 2 months and I've been feeling sick in the mornings. All the signs are there." A slow smile spread across Cole's face. "A baby," he said, his voice full of wonder. "We are going to have a baby." "Are you happy?" Eleanor asked, suddenly nervous. "Happy?" Cole laughed and pulled her into his arms. "Eleanor, I am beyond happy. I am blessed. You have given me so much already, and now this. I do not have words for what I am feeling." Eleanor relaxed into his embrace, relief and joy washing through her. "I am a little scared," she admitted. "I do not know anything about being a mother." "You will learn," Cole said, echoing the words she had spoken to him so many months ago when they first met. "And I will be right there with you, every step of the way." True to his word, Cole hovered over Eleanor for the rest of her pregnancy. He insisted she not lift anything heavy, made sure she ate enough, and fussed over her until she finally had to tell him to stop or she was going to lose her mind. But she loved him for it, loved the way he cared, the way he already loved their unborn child. As spring arrived and the world turned green again, Eleanor's belly grew round and full. She felt awkward and ungainly, but Cole seemed to find her even more beautiful. He would rest his hand on her stomach and talk to the baby, telling it stories and making promises about all the things they would do together. In late May, when the wildflowers were blooming across the meadows and the air was sweet with their scent, Eleanor's labor began. Cole rode like the wind to fetch Martha Henderson, who had helped deliver half the babies in the county, and then he paced the kitchen while Martha and Eleanor were closeted in the bedroom. It was a long labor, lasting through the night and into the next day. Cole wore a path in the floorboards with his pacing, jumping every time he heard Eleanor cry out. Finally, just as the sun was setting on the second day, he heard a new sound, the thin, reedy wail of a newborn baby. Cole froze, his heart in his throat. Then Martha appeared in the doorway, smiling. "You have got a son," she said, "a healthy boy with a good set of lungs, and Eleanor is fine, just exhausted." Cole nearly collapsed with relief. "Can I see them?" "Of course. They are waiting for you." Cole entered the bedroom on shaking legs. Eleanor was propped up against the pillows, pale and tired but smiling. In her arms was a tiny bundle wrapped in blankets. Cole approached slowly, almost afraid to breathe. "Come meet your son," Eleanor said softly. Cole sat on the edge of the bed and looked down at the baby. He was small and red, with a shock of dark hair and tiny fists that waved in the air. Cole reached out one finger and the baby immediately grasped it with surprising strength. "Hello there, little one," Cole whispered. "I am your papa." The baby blinked up at him with unfocused eyes, and Cole felt his heart crack open. He had thought he understood love when he married Eleanor, but this was something else entirely. This was fierce and protective and overwhelming. "What should we name him?" Eleanor asked. Cole thought for a moment. "What about Samuel, after your father?" Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. "Samuel," she repeated. "Yes, Samuel Brennan. It is perfect." They spent the next few weeks in a haze of sleepless nights and endless wonder. Samuel was a good baby, healthy and strong, and Cole was a natural father. He changed diapers without complaint, walked the floor with Samuel when he was fussy, and sang lullabies in his deep voice that seemed to calm the baby instantly. Eleanor watched her husband with their son and felt her heart overflow with love. This was what she had been fighting for all along, she realized. Not just the ranch, not just survival. She had been fighting for this, for family, for love, for a future that was bright and full of promise. As summer turned to fall and Samuel grew bigger and more alert, Eleanor and Cole settled into their roles as parents. They still worked the ranch, but now they did it with a baby strapped to one of them, taking turns, so Samuel was always close by. It was chaotic and exhausting and absolutely perfect. One evening when Samuel was about 4 months old, Cole found Eleanor standing at the edge of the flower field that had sprung up behind the house. She was holding Samuel, pointing out the different colors to him even though he was too young to understand. "What are you thinking about?" Cole asked, coming up behind her and wrapping his arms around both of them. "I am thinking about that day in Santa Fe," Eleanor said, "when you told me I belonged in a field of flowers. I did not really understand what you meant then, but I think I do now. You were not just talking about me being beautiful. You were talking about me blooming, about me becoming who I was meant to be." "And have you," Cole asked, "just become who you were meant to be?" Eleanor turned in his arms, looking up at him with eyes that shone with happiness. "I have become so much more than I ever dreamed I could be. I am a rancher and a wife and a mother. I am strong and capable and loved. And it is all because of you, because you saw something in me that I did not see in myself." Cole shook his head. "I did not make you any of those things, Eleanor. You already were strong and capable. I just had the good fortune to be there when you realized it." "You are too modest," Eleanor said, smiling. "And you are too generous," Cole replied. Then he kissed her, softly and sweetly, with their son between them and the flowers all around them. The years that followed were full and rich. The ranch prospered under their joint management, growing from a small operation to one of the most successful in the territory. They added to the herd, built a new barn, and hired several hands to help with the work. Eleanor's horse breeding program took off, and soon they were selling quality stock to buyers from as far away as Texas and California. They also added to their family. 2 years after Samuel was born, Eleanor gave birth to twin girls Emma and Anna, who had their mother's blonde hair and their father's changeable eyes. The girls were a whirlwind of energy, keeping Eleanor and Cole on their toes. Samuel, who was already showing signs of being a natural horseman like his father, was a devoted big brother, patient with his sister's antics. 3 years after the twins came another son, James, who was quiet and thoughtful, with a love for books and learning. Cole built him a small desk in the corner of the parlor where James could read and draw to his heart's content. The house, which had once felt too big and too empty, was now bursting with life and noise and love. Eleanor could hardly remember what it had been like before Cole, before the children. It felt like another lifetime, another person entirely. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Cole surprised Eleanor by recreating their trip to Santa Fe. They left the children with Martha Henderson, who had become a close friend and doted on the Brennan children, and rode out to the city together. Cole took Eleanor to the same plaza where he had proposed, and sure enough, the flower field was still there, even more lush and beautiful than Eleanor remembered. They stood together hand in hand and looked at the riot of color. "Do you remember what I said to you here?" Cole asked. "Of course," Eleanor said. "You said I belonged in that field." "I was wrong," Cole said. Eleanor looked at him in surprise. "What?" Cole turned to face her, taking both her hands in his. "I said you belonged in the field because I thought you needed to be surrounded by beauty to match your own. But I was wrong. You do not belong in the field, Eleanor. You are the field. You are the beauty and the strength and the life that makes everything else grow. You have taken a broken, drifting man and given him roots. You have taken a struggling ranch and made it flourish. You have created a family, a home, a whole world out of nothing but determination and love. You are not meant to be surrounded by beauty. You create it wherever you go." Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. "Cole Brennan, after 10 years of marriage, you can still make me cry." Cole grinned. "I'm going to take that as a compliment." "You should," Eleanor said, laughing through her tears. She pulled him down for a kiss, pouring all her love and gratitude into it. When they finally broke apart, Cole reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. "I never did get you a proper engagement ring," he said. "I always meant to, but there was always something else we needed more. But I have been saving, and I wanted to give you this, to show you that you are still the most precious thing in my life." He opened the box to reveal a simple gold band with a small diamond set into it. It was not extravagant, but it was beautiful. "Cole, you did not have to," Eleanor began. "I wanted to," Cole said firmly. "Let me do this." Eleanor held out her hand, and Cole slipped the ring onto her finger beside the plain gold band she had worn since their wedding day. It fit perfectly. "It is beautiful," Eleanor whispered. "Thank you." "Not as beautiful as you," Cole said. They spent the rest of the day in Santa Fe, walking through the markets, eating at a nice restaurant, and just enjoying being together without the demands of the ranch and the children. It was a stolen moment of romance, a reminder of why they had fallen in love in the first place. When they returned home, the children rushed to greet them, full of stories about what they had done with Aunt Martha. Eleanor hugged each of them tight, breathing in the scent of their hair, feeling their small bodies pressed against her. This was her life now. This beautiful, chaotic, perfect life. That night after the children were in bed, Eleanor and Cole sat on the porch swing, wrapped in blankets against the cool evening air. The stars were bright overhead, and somewhere in the distance, a coyote called to its pack. "Do you ever think about what your life would have been like if I had not hired you that day?" Eleanor asked. Cole considered it. "I suppose I would still be drifting, going from ranch to ranch, never staying anywhere long, never letting myself care about anything or anyone. And now? Now I cannot imagine being anywhere but here, with you, with our children. This is my home, Eleanor, the only real home I have ever had." Eleanor nestled closer to him. "I am glad you stopped in Salvation that day. I am glad Walter told me about you. I am glad you took a chance on a desperate woman with a failing ranch. I am glad you took a chance on a drifter with nothing to his name but a horse and a bedroll," Cole countered. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, listening to the sounds of the night. Then Eleanor said, "Do you think we will grow old here, on this ranch?" "I do not see why not," Cole said. "We will watch our children grow up, maybe help them start ranches of their own. We will have grandchildren running around, driving us crazy. We will sit on this porch when we are old and gray and remember all the years we have had together." "That sounds perfect," Eleanor said softly. "It does not it?" Cole agreed. And that was exactly how it happened. The years rolled by, each one bringing new challenges and new joys. Samuel grew into a fine young man, taking over more and more of the ranch work as Cole's back began to ache and his hands grew stiff. The twins Emma and Anna married brothers from a neighboring ranch and started families of their own. Though they visited often, James, true to his nature, became a teacher, opening a small school in Salvation and filling young minds with knowledge and wonder. Cole and Eleanor became grandparents and then great-grandparents. The ranch stayed in the family, passed down through generations, always prosperous, always a symbol of what hard work and love could build. On a warm summer evening, when Eleanor was 70 and Cole was 74, they sat on the porch swing together watching the sun set over the fields. Eleanor's hair was white as snow, and Cole's face was deeply lined. But when they looked at each other, they saw the young people they had been all those years ago. "Do you remember that flower field in Santa Fe?" Eleanor asked. "How could I forget?" Cole replied. "That was the day I told you I loved you." "You also told me I belonged in that field," Eleanor said. "I did, and I was wrong." Eleanor smiled. "You told me that on our anniversary, remember? You said I wasn't meant to be in the field. I was the field." "I meant it then, and I mean it now," Cole said. "You have been the center of everything good in my life, Eleanor. You have been my home, my partner, my love. Every flower that has bloomed, every child that has been born, every good thing that has happened has come from you." "It came from us," Eleanor corrected gently. "We did it together." "Together," Cole agreed. He reached over and took her hand, lacing his aged fingers through hers just as he had done so many times over the decades. They sat in silence, watching the sun paint the sky in shades of gold and red. The ranch was quiet, the day's work done. Somewhere in the house they could hear the laughter of their great-grandchildren visiting for the summer. "I have had a good life," Eleanor said softly. "Better than I ever dreamed possible." "So have I," Cole said. "And it is not over yet." Eleanor smiled. "No, not yet." They sat together on the porch swing, two souls who had found each other against all odds, who had built a life and a legacy out of love and hard work. The stars began to appear in the darkening sky, and a cool breeze carried the scent of wildflowers from the meadow. Eleanor rested her head on Cole's shoulder, and he wrapped his arm around her, holding her close. And in that moment, surrounded by the land they had tended, the family they had created, and the love that had sustained them through everything, they were completely and utterly content. Years after that peaceful evening when both Cole and Eleanor had passed on, surrounded by family and love, the ranch continued to thrive. Their children and grandchildren told stories about the couple who had started it all, about how Eleanor had refused to give up after her father's death, about how Cole had drifted into town and found his home, about how they had fallen in love and built something beautiful together. But the story everyone loved most was about the flower field in Santa Fe, and the day Cole had told Eleanor she belonged in it. It became a family legend, passed down through generations, a reminder that love was not just about grand gestures or dramatic declarations. It was about seeing someone truly, seeing their beauty and their strength, and choosing to stand beside them through everything life brought. The ranch itself became known throughout New Mexico as a place of prosperity and happiness, where love had laid the foundation for everything else. And on quiet summer evenings, when the wildflowers bloomed in the meadows and the setting sun painted the sky gold, some said you could still feel the presence of Cole and Eleanor, watching over the land and the family they had created, still together even in death as they had been in life. Their story was one of resilience and romance, of two people who had found each other when they needed it most and had built a life that lasted far beyond their years. It was a testament to the power of love to transform, to heal, to create something lasting and beautiful, even in the harshest of landscapes. And in the end, that was the legacy Cole and Eleanor left behind. Not just a successful ranch or a large family, but the knowledge that love, real love, could weather any storm, overcome any obstacle, and create something that would endure long after they were gone. The Whitmore Ranch, as it was still called even generations later, stood as a monument to what they had built together. The house that Eleanor had once occupied alone, grief-stricken and desperate, was now filled with laughter and life. The barn that had been falling apart when Cole arrived was solid and strong, housing horses that were renowned throughout the territory. The fields that had seemed too much for one woman to manage were lush and productive, feeding cattle that bore the Whitmore brand with pride. Samuel, who had taken over the ranch when his parents grew too old to manage it themselves, often found himself thinking about his father's words about his mother. How Cole had said Eleanor was not meant to be in the field of flowers, but was the field itself. Samuel understood now what his father had meant. His mother had not just survived in this harsh land, she had thrived, had created beauty and life and love where there had been only struggle and loss. And his father, the drifter who had found his home, had been the perfect partner for her. Together they had been unstoppable. On the anniversary of his parents' deaths, which occurred within months of each other, as if neither could bear to be without the other for long, Samuel gathered the entire family at the ranch. Children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. They all came. There were dozens of them now, all descended from Cole and Eleanor, all carrying forward the legacy of love and hard work. Samuel stood before the family, now gray-haired himself but still strong, and told the story one more time. The story of how his mother had hired a stranger out of desperation, how that stranger had become her partner, her love, her everything, how they had saved the ranch and built a family and created something that would last for generations. They taught us that love is not something that just happens, Samuel said, his voice carrying across the gathered crowd. It is something you choose every day, even when things are hard, especially when things are hard. They chose each other, and they kept choosing each other through everything life threw at them. And because of that choice, all of us are here today. He paused, looking around at the faces of his siblings, his children, his grandchildren, all of them healthy and happy, all of them benefiting from the foundation Cole and Eleanor had laid so many years ago. My father used to say that my mother did not belong in a field of flowers because she was the field itself, Samuel continued, that she created beauty wherever she went. And he was right, but I think my father underestimated his own role. He was not just a witness to my mother's beauty. He was the rain that helped her bloom. He was the sunshine that made her grow. They were perfect for each other, and they made each other better. There was a murmur of agreement from the crowd. Many of them had their own memories of Cole and Eleanor, their own stories to tell. The time Cole had taught them to ride, the way Eleanor's eyes would light up when she saw her husband, the way they would hold hands even in their old age, still in love as they had been from the beginning. After Samuel finished speaking, the family scattered across the ranch, each drawn to their own favorite spots. Some went to the barn to see the horses. Others walked out to the fields where the cattle grazed. A few of the younger children ran to the creek laughing and splashing. But a small group, led by Emma, one of the twins, walked to a quiet spot on a hill overlooking the ranch. There, under a large cottonwood tree, were two headstones side by side. Simple markers, nothing fancy, just names and dates and a single line of text that Eleanor had chosen before she died. Together in life, together in eternity. Emma knelt beside the graves, placing wild flowers on each one. She did this every year, always choosing the most colorful blooms she could find, because her father had loved giving her mother flowers, and her mother had loved receiving them. "Hello, Mama. Hello, Papa," Emma said softly. "We are all here again. Everyone came." Samuel told the story about the flower field. He tells it every year, but we never get tired of hearing it. She smiled, tears in her eyes. "I hope you can see us from wherever you are. I hope you know that everything you built is still standing strong. The ranch is doing well. The family is healthy and happy. You would be so proud." Her sister Anna came to stand beside her, laying her own flowers on the graves. "We miss you both," Anna added, "but we feel you here in the land, in the wind, in every beautiful thing around us. You are still with us in everything that matters." As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the hill, the family gathered around the graves. They did not speak much. They did not need to. They simply stood together, connected by blood and love and the legacy of two people who had refused to give up, who had found each other against all odds, and who had built something that would last forever. And as the last light of day faded and the stars began to appear, a gentle breeze stirred the wildflowers on the graves, carrying their scent across the ranch. It was a sweet smell, full of promise and hope, just like the love story that had started it all. In the small town of Salvation, now grown larger but still recognizing its roots, people still told the story of Cole and Eleanor Brennan. It had become part of the local folklore, a tale that parents told their children, that young couples whispered to each other when they were first falling in love. The story of the cowboy who did not know much about flowers but knew where beauty belonged. The story of the woman who had fought to save her ranch and found love instead. The story of two people who had chosen each other and had never regretted that choice for a single day. It was a story that reminded people that love was worth fighting for, that hard work and determination could overcome any obstacle, that two people working together could achieve more than either could alone. It was a story that gave hope to the struggling, courage to the afraid, and faith to those who had lost their way. And on quiet evenings when the wildflowers bloomed and the sun painted the sky in brilliant colors, some claimed they could see two figures walking hand in hand through the fields. A tall man with a gentle smile and a woman with golden hair, forever young, forever in love. Whether it was real or just a trick of the light, people never quite decided, but it did not really matter. Because Cole and Eleanor's love was real, and it lived on in the ranch they had built, the family they had created, and the hearts of everyone who heard their story. And that was all that mattered in the end. Love that lasted, love that endured, love that created something beautiful and lasting in a wild, untamed land. The wildflowers continued to bloom each spring in the meadows around the Whitmore Ranch, a carpet of color that stretched as far as the eye could see. And every time someone from the family saw them, they thought of Cole's words to Eleanor all those years ago in Santa Fe. "I do not know much about flowers, but I know that field looks like you belong in it." It was more than a romantic sentiment. It was a recognition of Eleanor's inherent beauty, her strength, her ability to thrive even in difficult circumstances, and it was a promise, one that Cole had kept every day of his life. The promise to see Eleanor truly, to appreciate her, to love her not in spite of her struggles, but because of the strength they had forged in her. Their love story had not been easy. It had been forged in hardship, tested by challenges, and tempered by years of hard work. But that was what made it real. That was what made it last. They had not given up when things were difficult. They had not walked away when the easy thing would have been to leave. They had stayed together, and they had built something beautiful. And in doing so, they had created a legacy that would outlive them both. A family that loved deeply and worked hard. A ranch that stood as a testament to what partnership could achieve. And a love story that would be told and retold, inspiring others to believe that true love was not just a fairy tale, but something real and attainable if you were willing to fight for it. As the years continued to pass and the Whitmore Ranch moved into its fifth and sixth generations, the story of Cole and Eleanor remained central to the family identity. It was the foundation on which everything else was built, and it served as a reminder that love, real love, was not something that just happened. It was something you chose, something you worked at, something you nurtured and protected and cherished. The wildflowers still bloomed each spring, the cattle still grazed in the fields, the horses still ran free in the pastures, and the Whitmore ranch still stood solid and strong, a monument to what two people in love could build when they chose to face the world together. And somewhere, in the rustle of the wind through the cottonwood trees, in the scent of wildflowers on the breeze, in the warmth of the sun on a summer day, Cole and Eleanor's love lived on, forever young, forever true, forever together, because that was the thing about real love. It did not die when the body did. It lived on in the lives it had touched, the people it had created, the legacy it had built. It lived on in the stories that were told, the memories that were cherished, the example that was followed. Cole and Eleanor's love was eternal. Not because they were perfect, but because they were real. Not because their lives were easy, but because they faced their challenges together. Not because they never struggled, but because they never gave up. And that, in the end, was the greatest lesson their love story taught. That true love was not about finding the perfect person or having the perfect life. It was about finding someone you could face the imperfect world with, someone who saw you truly and loved you anyway, someone who would stand beside you through joy and sorrow, success and failure, health and sickness, until the very end. Cole and Eleanor had found that in each other. And in doing so, they had created something that would never truly die, something that would live on in the hearts and minds of everyone who heard their story, a love that was as wild and untamed as the New Mexico territory itself, a love that was as strong and enduring as the land they had worked, a love that was as beautiful and vibrant as the field of wildflowers where Cole had first told Eleanor how he truly felt. It was a love for the ages, a love that proved that even in the hardest of times, in the wildest of places, two people could find each other and build something that would last forever. And as long as the Whitmore Ranch stood, as long as the wildflowers bloomed in the meadows, as long as the stars shone over the New Mexico territory, Cole and Eleanor's love story would live on, a testament to the enduring power of love, the strength of partnership, and the beauty that could be created when two people chose each other and never let go. Their story was complete. Their lives were full. Their love was eternal. And they had lived, loved, and built something beautiful together, which in the end was all anyone could hope for. The end of their earthly journey was just the beginning of their legend, and that legend would continue to inspire, to encourage, and to remind everyone who heard it that love, real love, was worth everything, worth the risk, worth the fight, worth the sacrifice. Because in the end, love was all that truly mattered, and Cole and Eleanor had loved each other well. Their happily ever after was not just a fairy tale ending. It was a life fully lived, a love fully expressed, and a legacy that would endure for generations to come. It was everything they had fought for, everything they had dreamed of, and everything they had deserved. And as the last rays of the setting sun painted the sky in brilliant shades of orange and gold, as the wildflowers swayed in the evening breeze, as the Whitmore Ranch settled into another peaceful night, the story of Cole and Eleanor came to its close. But their love would never end. It would live on forever in the land they had tended, the family they had created, and the hearts of everyone who knew their story. A love story for the ages. A love that conquered all. A love that proved that in the wild, untamed West, two souls could find each other and create something that would last for eternity. Cole and Eleanor Brennan, a cowboy and his love, together forever.